The global IT service market is experiencing significant growth to reach approximately $2.6 trillion by 2030, up from $1.5 trillion in 2024. My name is Paul Mashwati, and I'm the practice lead and principal analyst at theCUBE Research, and I cover app dev in this space. I'm joined today by Matthew and Ryan. Would you like to introduce yourselves in your organization? Let's start with you, Matthew.
Hi, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Blumira. We're a security operations platform, and super excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. And Ryan, how about you?
Hey, I'm Ryan Thorson. I'm a principal product manager with Do It, leading our Cloudflow automation efforts as well as our cloud analytics tool. And Do It is a technology company providing intent-aware FinOps solutions that helps businesses maximize their impact on their cloud investment. Excited to talk today.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for being here, guys. This is a really awesome topic. I was really excited about this session leading up to it because it's near and dear to my heart. When I think of multi-cloud and what's happening in the cloud environments, multi-cloud optimization and managed services helps organizations reduce cloud spending, as we know. But it also needs to increase operational efficiencies and accelerate innovation without really adding those internal complexities, right? And when we solve these common industry challenges, the cost viability, the resource utilization, and scaling to cloud-native workflows is really imperative for a lot of organizations. So, Matthew, with that said, I'd love to get your thoughts. I mean, when we look at modernization, when you talk to the organizations about this, this is the number one challenge that a lot of CIOs run into. What are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, it's really interesting for where we are in the market. We tend to sell into the small, medium business up into mid-market. So for a lot of them, they are just now starting to think about what multi-cloud looks like for them. And for us as in a lot of ways, we are a data company. We have those conversations internally of what does multi-cloud look like? Could you really even move the amount of data we have between clouds? And how do you find a managed service partner that's going to help you kind of drive those through them as well? And I think you kind of nailed it, Paul, that a lot of it really is related to what the operational efficiency of doing multi-cloud is. It can be really easy to do multi-cloud and lose kind of what you're doing and what the costs of it all are and how it's all fitting together. And for me, I think the best example at Blumira is that, we are primarily a Google shop, but we also have AWS environments, we have Azure environments. And the only way to really get visibility across them and to bring together the operational kind of the view is to leverage something like Do It, and we're a Do It customer, to really kind of drive that forward into a centralized view. Otherwise, you get to that place where all of a sudden you get a bill from AWS and you're trying to figure out wait, where did this come from? And who is managing this? And who is doing this thing? And where did it come from? And if you are working with a managed service provider to really support that multi-cloud view, it makes it just easier to get the visibility broadly across what you're doing, especially if you're in the middle of that, am I transitioning? What's the benefit of going to that other cloud? What can I get out of Azure that I can't get out of Google? And how can I connect those pieces together without just creating more pain? That is kind of the name of the game at this point, especially in engineering and operations for my team. And it only gets crazier when you get into the FinOps cost side of it as well.
Oh, without a doubt, Matthew. And then when we talk about this, we look at there's the data sets, right? When I look at our own research and we say that, looking at the CUBE research, 94% of organizations are using 2 or more clouds. 65% are using 4 or more clouds. And these harmonization across these different cloud environments is really a challenge for many organizations. The cost, the optimization, the skill set alone. So Ryan, I want to kind of pivot over to you. When we look at multi-cloud and we look at data cloud from these different clouds from multiple sources, struggling with harmonizing the data across various sources can always be a challenge. What are your thoughts on how organizations can kind of overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so at Do It, we built a lot of tools around analyzing your data no matter what the source is, whether it's AWS or GCP or Azure or any third-party offering, Snowflake, Datadog. We're constantly adding new integrations that bring that data in natively. And we have our Data Hub tool, which allows you to bring in any data, whether it's cost data related to the cloud or your business data or SaaS tools. But basically, we're allowing you to create that business lens into your costs, whether that's on AWS or GCP. And if you're transitioning something from one to the other, you're able to continuously see what is that impact on our costs, right? If we move workloads from one to the other, or we spin up some new resources, you can see the cost centers. You can see where that's driving your costs up or down? Are you getting a return on that investment? Is it helping drive sales? How is it driving your KPIs to your business? So we've really focused on building these tools that allow you to see that continuity across all of your cost centers related to the cloud and related to your business.
Yeah, continuity absolutely is key. Operational excellence is key, right? When we look at how to do this, depending on where you are or the organization is in on their own journey, automation plays into this as a major factor, right? I mean, when we look at the maturity of organizations, some organizations are doing things very manually, trying to use those efficiencies, trying to get to that more automated approach. But automating the right things, the why and how, and the integration across different automation really, really matters. And when we look at like some things like task function automation and how that's working, Ryan, I want to start with you on this one. When we look at the automation here, how important is it for organizations to leverage automation in a cloud native era?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I've been working on our Cloudflow offering, which is our workflow automation tool. And if the first thing we looked at was these FinOps people responsible for the cloud costs, and how they were getting the action to be taken throughout their organization, right? So the original impetus for Cloudflow was, how do we allow that FinOps person who has to get an instance shut down by 75 developers, right? That's a lot on someone's plate to get all those things shut down, right? So how do we help them kind of set the needs and the guidelines, and then get someone to take action on it quickly, right? It's insights are one thing, but action is where the value comes from. And so that was where we started from, and we allowed people to then grow and use any API through the cloud providers, through AWS and GCP, to create whatever they need to do to drive the business outcomes that they're trying to drive. And we've really, we've took a strategy of trying to attack as wide a swath as possible, because everyone has different business needs and different things they're trying to drive. And so we created this tool as a way of saying, this is what's important to me to automate, right? And what we're seeing with a lot of our customers is that they're starting to first get comfortable with the tool by automating the low-hanging fruit, the things they do, the cleanup they do once every month, once every 3 months, once every 6 weeks, whatever it may be, as a way of allowing them to focus on really high-value things that require that high touch of human eyes, right? And as they continue to get more comfortable with it, they automate, they move up the list, right? Up and up and up and up, until they're really spending all their time, their human time, focusing on the highest value business drivers that can.
Yeah, Ryan, that makes a lot of sense. And actually, I want to come back to a point you made, which is that innovation versus maintenance, right? And if you're kind of looking at the context of, optimizing your resources in your environment, you only have so many hours in a day. And what we're finding in our research is 67% of organizations are looking to hire generalists over specialists, and not because they don't want to hire a specialist. It's just they can't find the specialist, right? So Matthew, I want to kind of ask the same question to you with this. When we think about this journey that organizations go through, and I want to talk about your organization in particular, what are your thoughts on automation and why it's important to kind of move to that direct kind of approach versus having specialists doing things every day, like manually? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you go back, 7 years in cloud, and you're at a point where, you may get to the end of the month and your bill's $150,000 higher than you expected. And because you didn't have someone looking every single day at what was the spend coming out of that environment of whatever cloud. If you have multi-cloud, it gets even harder at that point. And the benefits that have been coming out of the automation associated with, insights and data, ways to investigate what's happening from the insights, the ability to really, and this is really more of a business leader perspective, the ability to stop overspend in multi-cloud by getting better visibility through insights and automation, and then being able to tie those into Jira, being able to tie those into engineers or SREs, and really being able to have this full stack that allows you as an organization, or us as an organization, to say, how are we spending? How are we making our money? Where are we seeing the most spend? What can we do moving forward strategically to make the right decisions as an organization to say, could we go to AWS and do this for cheaper? Would we have less pain potentially associated with spikes? And how would those flow through from an automation perspective? So for us, and a lot of the people we speak to, part of it is the automation around setup, tear down, how we're going about it. My engineers, I know, for example, are thrilled about the Do It stuff. They were just talking about integrating into it yesterday, in fact. So from the standpoint of potential integration is huge. From the business leader perspective, I just love it because I can think back to 7-10 years ago when cloud costs and automation just weren't something you had visibility into. And the cost and being able to understand your margin, what you were getting out of it, what was happening was essentially missing from that automation point of view. So being able to take that data out regularly, apply logic to it, attach it to automation, have that automation either spin up a task or at the very least give people insight and a direction for that investigation, which is also automated, has so much potential to just make engineering as well as those kind of like data FinOps teams more successful. And I like anything that just makes finance teams' lives easier in my experience. Like there's so much technology flowing around at this point. If I've learned anything over the last 3 or 4 years, it's that I can't expect a finance team to dig through cloud cost data. I need to automate that, and I need to make it as easy as possible for them.
So what I heard you say is we're making engineering fun again. That's what I heard.
Exactly. Yes.
That's really, really cool. But I actually, I think it's interesting because Ryan, you mentioned something I want to kind of double click down on based on what Matthew was just kind of reviewing there. It's the fact that organizations usually have bespoke solutions, right? They usually kind of come in with their own kind of, say, homegrown ways of doing things. But Ryan, you touched on freedom of choice. You touched on API integration. You touched on the way to connect in these different tools in your automation. Can you expand that a little bit more? Because I think the audience here would love to hear how they can take what they're doing today and use the next generation of where they need to go.
Yeah. So as a product company that focuses on the cloud, right, where we know people are in AWS, we know they're in GCP. A lot of them, as Matthew said, a lot of them are in both or all, Azure as well. And we built our tools around answering the question, where am I spending my money? Where can I be better? Where can I, what are the insights? How can I be more secure? How can I, have the latest technology? How can I encourage innovation in my organization, right? And doing that is not necessarily a cloud specific answer, right? That's not how they think about it. It's not how our customers think about it. It's not how our users think about it. And so all of the tools that we have built across the Do It platform are enabling you to answer those questions and enabling you to take that action based on what the insights gleaned from your data, from our specialists, from our insights, and a lot of the tools we've built are around allowing you to get insight into your business, right? And so we have a tool for allocating costs, right? You could allocate AWS and GCP together. You could allocate AWS, GCP, and your Datadog spend together, right? You can make those business rules so that when you're looking at a report, you see everything. You understand how your cloud spend is impacting your business. A lot of our tools, and especially Cloudflow, right, is designed to work for your business and not just a business that's on AWS, right? And so we have that in mind as we're developing all of these tools, and as we're talking to our customers, that's what we're hearing from them, is that they want to be able to apply their business logic in our tool to understand their business, right? Every business is different. How Matthew looks at it is different than the customer I talked to this morning, right? So we have to build tools, and that's a challenge for our product team, is to build the tools that allow your business to work how you want to work and be as successful as possible.
Yeah, Ryan, I couldn't have said that better myself. I mean, I think the key point I want to extract out of that response is insights. Insights are important, right? If you don't have those insights, it's almost like you cannot communicate within your organization. And that leads us to our next question here, which is really talking about those team-based role challenges, right? When we look at how engineering and CIOs or C-team and cloud management teams kind of communicate and collaborate across teams, the tools and the tech are really starting to be reframed. So when we talk about this, Matthew, I'd love to hear from the real kind of, boots on the ground approach that you're doing in your organization. How is your organization taking that tools and tech and reframing it in a way that it's more effective for modernized approaches today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, number one, I would always say find a solid cloud partner. Like that is the number one thing that a lot of organizations that do multi-cloud need to be doing. It's really hard to attack those team-based challenges if you don't have that kind of cloud partner. You don't have a partner like Do It to really help you coalesce that data and coalesce everything down into something that you can then push out to those teams. Like I was alluding to just before, your finance team and your engineering teams are not going to need to see the exact same things, but they're going to need to use the same sets of data to make those decisions. And making sure that you are really kind of driving that understanding between those different teams of saying, we're going to have different needs on the CIO side where there's compliance versus the engineering side, where we're really driving into efficiencies, versus the finance side, where we're really looking at what is that margin and how are we actually spending that money across these different clouds. And the only way to really do that is to have that data in a central location that you can then push out through automation, as we were just talking about, and really drive that communication. Otherwise, you're just back to where we were in the old days of cloud, in the beginning of cloud, of trying to like piece all these pieces together with ad hoc solutions like Ryan was talking about, and having a centralized partner that solves that for you just makes it a lot more straightforward for your teams. And just in general, if you don't make it easy, people won't do it. That is just kind of the nature of people, especially as we get further into just the way that we are all approaching cloud. Like, it's very easy to just stand stuff up and go, but what is the evaluation? What is the impact? What is the impact to all of the teams? What is the impact to the margin? And this gets way crazier when you start getting into like the SaaS world of like, where is your gross margin? What are your COGS? What are your OpEx? How are you really using your spend associated with those COGS and associated with the cloud? And the only way to do that is to centralize that data and be able to drive those insights out of it. We talk a lot about here at Blumira that insights and being able to drive that knowledge is really what's most important. Like, using data to drive those insights has to happen. So if you can do that, and if you can find that centralized partner to do that for you, take advantage of it, because you as a singular organization, unless that's what you do, which most of us don't do that. Like, I'm not a multi-cloud partner, but I am an organization that uses multi-cloud, uses the cloud, and expends a fair amount of money into it. So how do you get the best value for that? You get the best value by getting the best kind of structured team-based automation in that you can really push those insights out, at least in my experience.
Yeah, no, Matthew, I think that's a very much an alignment to research as well. The CUBE research basically has shown that organizations are no longer wanting to work in silos, and they don't have that, I guess, that luxury of doing that anymore, right? And the ones that are continuing to work in silos are being at a competitive disadvantage. And what I liked about what you're saying is, there's, whether you're the practitioner or you're the executive team, you still have to kind of march to that North Star, right? You're still in alignment to your service level objectives for the business and trying to get to those goals. Ryan, anything to add to this? Because I think that this, from a tech stack perspective, from a product perspective, this is a very important piece of the puzzle. And it's people, process, and technologies really, it's not just a buzzword, it's a thing that people look for and when they actually do the implementation.
Yeah, I think Matthew hit the nail on the head, right? And when I was building Cloudflow, I mentioned earlier that the first thing we were trying to do is help that an ops person get the understanding out to their organization, right? The 75 engineers that need to make a change or upgrade their instance type or whatever it was. And you see that kind of human element in the feature requests we're getting, right? I want to be able to make sure that the right information is in front of my engineers, right? Like, we made an approval node to take action, right? And the first bit of feedback was, I also want a notification node. I just want to let someone know, hey, this is happening. Hey, this is the rules I set up, or this is the Cloudflow that I created. And I want you to know this is what it's telling me. This is what it's telling us, right? And so communicating out what you're building, what's important to you, what are your KPIs to people within your organization, and making sure that it's in a place that they're at, right? As Matthew alluded to, like, and an engineer might not be going directly into to look at their cloud costs, right? But it is important to them because the business is important to them. And if you just spin something up and don't think about it, that's a problem for the business. But if you can go to where they are, you can communicate what's important to the finance or to the business or to customers in one place, you start to kind of have that communication and it starts to get top of mind, right? And then an engineer might think before spinning up, a sandbox to do a proof of concept and then forgetting about it, right? So, it's that communication and that the ability to kind of be where people are and communicate what's important and give them the whole picture, right? With all those different data points, it is really what's going to start to engender action within the organization to really control those costs and to allow for more innovation, right? That's really the key. Like controlling costs is very important, as Matthew, I'm sure, will attest, but innovation is what takes your business to the next level. And a lot of this work, this FinOps work, creates the space for those innovations to take place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we come to the close of our session, Matthew, I want to give you the final word. We talked a lot on this session today about, the different areas of modernization, cloud optimization, FinOps, cost savings and such. What would you advise the viewers here to do to get started, or if they're already doing it, what kind of words of wisdoms do you have to provide to them?
Yeah, the first thing that I'll recommend to everyone is to find a cloud partner that will help you do multi-cloud. You will not build it yourself and get full visibility into it. It just won't happen. It's an area that if you're an organization that's just getting going, it can be very easy to forget about it. It can be very easy to move away from it. And as your organization grows, like Boomera, we are a security operations platform. We are a data platform. The growth of the company inevitably has growth of costs, growth of the need for more FinOps. So it is always important to stay ahead from your maturity curve of where you are wanting to go to, making sure that you are making those plans early and starting to implement them as early as possible, breaks down those silos, it brings forward that communication. And realistically, that's what I think a lot of us are looking for at this point in the market. I don't really care what technology you're using. We're looking for insights. We're looking for us all to be able to work together to solve those problems. And we're looking for some amount of knowledge to be brought to us. We do that in security operations, but from the standpoint of cloud partners and being able to drive that forward, a partner like Do-It to really centralize that view for you is the way that we have been able to really drive our success from that cloud point of view. The cost, like Ryan said, I'm always focused on that, but he's also spot on that if you can only do that innovation if you're offsetting that in what you're doing in cost and how you're delivering that service to your customers as well. So it all becomes this very tied together piece of the puzzle that you really have to make sure that you as an organization are working to solve that problem together internally as well as with your partners like Do-It.
Thank you, Matthew. That's really is insightful. I mean, I think, from the customer's perspective of just seeing how the day-to-day operations work, it's really important for for that perspective to be, shine through here. Ryan, there's a lot here to unpack. Where would the audience go? Where would the viewers go to learn more about this?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're really, a technology first guidance driven company that we're trying to help you operationalize FinOps in the real world. And you can go to doit.com to find out more about what we're cooking and what we're working on and where we're focused.
Great. I want to thank both of you for your insights and your sharing your thoughts on this session today. It's been great having you and joining us today. And I want to set out a big thank you to the audience for all of you that's tuned in. We appreciate you being part of the AppDevANGLE community. That wraps up this episode, and we'll be back next Wednesday for another conversation driving tools, trends, and talents shaping the future of application development. Whether you're deploying at the edge, building an AI, or modernizing your cloud stack, we've got you covered. So be sure to follow us on social. If you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to connect, you can always reach me at pauln@siliconangle.com. Until then, stay curious and stay building. Thank you.